Don't be alarmed. The quasi-shimmering light before you is a trans-dimensional gateway to other worlds, other voices, other thoughts, and other realities. Up feels like down, and down feels like the number 7 on a Wednesday morning. Don't worry. That quivering, blood-boiling sensation under your eyebrows is all a part of the charm. Welcome to the PCC Multiverse.
And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glassford, coming right back at you here for the PCC Multiverse, Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports, Fantasy Football, Lakers latest, and of course the Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciate you stopping by. Make sure you give us that 5-star review, subscribe. Also as well, make sure you like the video or the audio as well. And make sure you follow if you're listening on all the audio outlets out there, so you can go ahead and get the latest episodes of the Pop Culture Cosmos or the PC Multiverse straight to you indeed. And then to a big shout out, of course, to all the radio stations that still play us after all these years, and to our latest thank yous to all the recent subscribers to our popculturecosmos.wordpress.com site. We were just like blown away in the past month how many people have subscribed to us right there at popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. What wouldn't be the PCC Multiverse without my good friend? He is, of course, the mastermind behind so many great things on this show. He is the guru of pop culture. It is, of course, the great one himself. Sorry, Dwayne, you take a back seat, especially if you saw his Facebook profile photo. Looking pretty badass there. It is, of course, TJ Johnson. I ain't messing with you, my friend. For sure. You know what? Dark Alley, I see that guy. You know what? Taxi.
Your boy's been in the gym. Your boy has been in the gym putting in some work. And I'm feeling pretty good about it. Feeling pretty good about it. What's going on, G? How are you, man?
Good. Always good to see you, my friend. You look in great shape, my friend. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate
absolutely.
that, man. Thank you very much.
And when you hit 30, yeah, let me know. I'll say you're over the hill then. So.
Oh man, I used to be 30 once, a long time ago.
Well, you look great, my friend. So I'm happy for you, man. Especially as one who, man, I remember when I was in my mid-30s and I was trying everything I could to latch on to that, and then the kids started coming, and then it started going south, and yeah, that's all she wrote. But be that as it may, there's still a lot of good things to talk about, and that is in the world of pop culture. We've got a lot of great things for you. It wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without TJ Johnson giving you his final thoughts on this recent escapade with all these different video game formats. Of course, he gave you his thoughts last week on PlayStation State of Play, but what about his thoughts on the Summer Game Fest? What about his thoughts on the Xbox Showcase? What about his thoughts on Nintendo? We told you on the Monday show that we would give you an update what went on with Nintendo Direct June 2026. And it gave us some interesting things. So we'll go ahead and talk about that. And also as well, the other main topic we'll talk about later in the show is Steven Spielberg is back. And he is directing Disclosure Day, which hits theaters this weekend. I want to hear TJ's thoughts on not only his, as far as a retro review of his favorite Steven Spielberg film, but also as well what Disclosure Day he might think will do at the box office this weekend, because it was I'm not sure it was on everybody's lists. I have to go ahead and take a look at the fantasy booking as far as external what we did as far as predicting the box office winners and losers. So I'll have to go ahead and check it out indeed. But TJ, it's great to have you here. Let's first get into what's going on with the video game world. That is obviously this is the not E3, should be E3. Wish it was E3, but sorry, Gerald, it isn't the E3 type format anymore. But they still all showcased their games as far as it's concerned, or at least the games that they wanted us to see as far as gamers are concerned.
Right.
So we left off with you at PlayStation State of Play. You and I gave it around a 6.5. Josh was a little bit more favorable. He gave it a 7. not exactly like, he was like leaps and bounds over us, but
Right.
he was, I think, a little bit more
He's just being
favorable.
soft. He was just a little soft. It's okay. It's all right.
Well,
He was being nice.
he did like God of War,
Yep.
Laufey, and
Yep.
Wolverine a little bit more, I think, from what we saw than both you and I did. But again, that was the real good parts of what we saw PlayStation State of Play. But Summer Game Fest, I'll say this, and I'll lead you into it, my friend. I said on the Monday show that even if the whatever how many hours long the Summer Game Fest was, because it was long, I had a lot to showcase, and I will go ahead and I'll read off some of the names here as far as the games if you want me to, but there was just too many to count. I will say this, while not many just like grabbed me, there was some interesting ones, but nothing I have to go ahead and buy. I am very pleased when I saw that as far as Summer Game Fest concerned. And I'll say this as nicely as I can. When we started this show in the mid teens, as far as 2016, almost 10 years now, the double A marketplace for video games was dying. It was either indies or triple A's, and there was just nothing much or a whole lot in between. And 10 years later, we have seen that diametrically change to where there's a lot of smaller developers, mid-sized developers, and then we also have the big developers, and all of them seemingly can produce great award-winning games that can sell to a large audience. And with that, I mean, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, it should be that case in point. So with that said, my friend, I am extremely happy about Summer Games Fest. I think it's the biggest winner out of all this. I'd love to tell you Xbox was, and Xbox did fantastic. But the real winner, I think, when I thought more about it from what I said on Monday, because I'm changing my answer a little bit from what I said on Monday, I think the Summer Game Fest wins because it showcases that AA games are back.
Yeah, I think there's a place for all of that in the grand tapestry of gaming. I think that we have to recognize that there's room for all at the table. There's room for people to enjoy their indie games. There's room for people to enjoy their AA titles. There's room for them to enjoy their AAA titles. And they're varying tiers of experiences. They're varying tiers of prices, varying tiers of return ROIs, return on your investment. But there's room for everybody. And I think the sooner we all realize that, like, the sooner the world realizes that there's room for everybody, then I think the better off we'll all be. So there's room in the world. There's room in the world of video games. There's room in the world of movie directors, and there's room for all of us, man. Just find your lane and ride it, man. It's okay. It's okay. Be the best at what you can do. Be the best there is at what you do, even if what you do isn't very nice. But in this case, it should be very nice.
It will be indeed. And I just think, again, there were so many to choose from. Stranger Than Heaven, they have Resident Evil Code Veronica remake. There was absolutely a ton of games that was announced during the Summer Games Fest. But was there anything that really appealed to you during that whole 19-hour? Actually, I'm just kidding when I say that, but it was actually about 2 hours as far as what was announced at Summer Games Fest that really appeals to you.
Mm.
Final Fantasy VII Revelation.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII Revelation was a big one. Although my favorite Final Fantasy still to this day is Final Fantasy VIII. I
The
know
Wolf
people give it a
Among Us
lot of crap.
2.
Wolf Among Us 2 is a huge announcement for me. And the reason I'll tell you this, I'm a huge fan of Telltale games. I've been a huge fan of them since the very first Walking Dead. I mean, with Clementine, and I'm a huge fan of just them in general. From The Walking Dead to Batman to Guardians of the Galaxy to the aforementioned Wolf Among Us. The Wolf Among Us is probably right behind The Walking Dead season one, as far as my favorite Telltale game, period, hands down. The Wolf Among Us was just an incredible game. The world building was incredible. The story was awesome. I'm interested to see what this new repaint for the remaster of The Wolf Among Us season one, and I'm even more excited to know what they're gonna do with season two of The Wolf Among Us. So that was a huge announcement for me. I had a couple surprise announcements. The Wolf Among Us was one of them. The other one was Stuntman. I know a lot of people kind of slip on Stuntman. I think you and I talked about it briefly on
That was that on
the show.
PlayStation? I think that was on PlayStation State of Play.
That was on PlayStation State of Play. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
on PlayStation State of Play. So I guess it's not technically Summer Game Fest. Just like the Nintendo Direct technically isn't Summer
They
Game
had
Fest.
Hot
It's
Wheels
summer.
Infinite
It's Summer Game
Rush.
Fest.
They had
We're adding it.
Yeah, there you go.
We're
We're adding it.
adding
But it's something like it. They had Clutch is a new driving game, and Hot
Mhm.
Wheels Infinite Rush were both announced during.
Yeah, and the Clutch one was like a story-driven racing game, so it's gonna be interesting to see that one. I think the F1 movie kind of got people invigorated or interested in racing stories again, and I
The
think Clutch
Galactic
is.
Racer from Star Wars, you could say that, which was also there. You could
You can, but that was pod racing. I mean, I think we've already had that. But I guess my point is, there were some things on there that were just a little like came out of left field. Um, Now, I think some of the things that made me feel the best, right? I enjoyed I enjoyed the God of War preview. If we're talking about places, I enjoyed God of War. I did not enjoy the Wolverine preview as much as some other people did, and that's fine. But those would be my two biggest ones from PlayStation. My biggest ones from Xbox. Xbox had a very, very strong lineup. I love seeing Hallie Atwell play the villain in the new Fable. I thought that was a really, really cool twist. I really, my biggest surprise from the Xbox show was probably Gears of War E-Day. And the
Well,
reason I say that
we'll
is
touch
because
on that. We'll touch on that in a minute. We'll touch on the whole Xbox thing in a minute, Dan.
all
We'll
right, so
leave
that
that
was my
in
biggest
its own
that
section.
was that was one of my more pleasant surprises from the
Okay,
Xbox show, as well
fair
as
enough.
the Clockwork one. But I think
Clockwork
my
Revolution,
biggest
by the way.
Clockwork Revolutions, yes. I think my biggest surprise is really, it wasn't a surprise at all, but it was a surprise that they finally announced it, was the Legend of Zelda remake for Ocarina of Time today on the Nintendo Direct. The fact that they say that for the end of the show was very appropriate, because I absolutely lost my composure when I seen that. I lost my composure. The little kid in me lit up like a Christmas tree. I remember Gerald playing that game back in, I want to say it was 1996, 95, 96, somewhere in that general vicinity. On the Nintendo 64, and just being in awe with the world, and being in awe with watching this kid go from a kid to an adult, and all of a sudden he's got this earring in his ear and his leotard on, and he can wield the master sword, and it, the little kid in me lost his mind. And we've heard about this for a while. Nintendo's notoriously tight-lipped about rumors and things of that nature. They don't like to comment or speculate on them, which I give them credit for. But my God, when this thing finally showed, I was like, take me back. I'm back in 1996, back in my PJs, playing The Legend of Zelda, trying to get the Mirror Shield, trying to get through the Shadow Temple without being scared. Like, I was right back there. It was pretty cool. So I'm looking forward. The Star Fox reveal was another really good one. The fact that the demo was released today as well, which, if you had a chance to play it, it's plays just like Star Fox 64, better graphics, but the same game. It was amazing. So I think the most fun I had was the Nintendo press conference, just because of some of the announcements that they did and some of the things we got to see. But overall, I think the Game Fest was really, really good. It does make me miss E3. It makes me miss the pageantry that came with it a little bit. Now, sometimes it got a little over the top. Obviously, they started going in a different direction from E3, as far as having different, interests there. I'll keep it as family friendly as I can with that comment. But having different interests show up at E3, as opposed to just focusing on the games or the hardware, um, definitely was kind of a death knell for it. But overall, I think the Summer Game Fest did its best E3 impersonation as of, in these latter years. Summer Game Fest has kind of been a hit or miss for a lot of time, for a few years, but I think this one's probably the strongest showing that they've had in some time for me personally. So
I will say again, I thought Summer Game Fest did what it needed to, and it brought a lot of interesting games to platform. In fact, The one I wanted to go ahead and highlight last before we get into Xbox and Nintendo a little bit more often, a little more was the I think the last Dawn Walker or something. Let me go ahead and I'll get that. Where would I put it? It was the Dawn Walker. I mentioned it on the Monday show, how impressed I was with it. I wanted to go ahead and make sure because it comes from some veterans from CD Projekt Red, which you know from The Witcher, who is still making DLC for The Witcher 3 here in 2026, which was amazing enough indeed. But amongst everything, again, I wanted to go ahead and give The Blood of Dawnwalker, which is coming out in September, some love. And I thought that game has the look and feel similar to what you're going to see with The Witcher, what you see with The Witcher. And I'm looking for that to be an under the radar hit when it comes out in the sea of games that were announced and coming out of September. September
is crazy.
September, you need a bank loan for all the games that you might have to buy in September.
Not if you have Game Pass. Hi-yo.
Not all of them are coming out on Game Pass.
I know that. Not all of them, but a good amount.
I'm just saying. But I will ask you this though, with Xbox and the Xbox showcase before we get in really hard into Nintendo. And once again, it's my good friend TJ Johnson, the guru of pop culture, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching us. I truly appreciate you stopping by the PCC Multiverse. With that said, my friend, when it comes right down to it, the Xbox showcase, it needed to go ahead and deliver. I think there's a lot riding on it. It's a very pivotal time. They had to change the leadership. Asha Sharma has come in there, really changed things around. Mentioned that some things that were meant for multi-platform may not be multi-platform going forward, and we saw 2 examples of that, at least going forward as far as for Xbox on the showcase. But I think the winner of everything I saw, and I thought they did a great job as a standalone between them and PlayStation, Nintendo. Of the 3, they were the best showcase. Your thoughts on the Xbox showcase, the 3 added levels for Halo Combat Evolved, the fact that they're going to get entirely out of the way of GTA 6 and come out in late July, I believe, as just something. It's kind of away from the 25th anniversary, so it may not have the same look and feel, but they're adding 3 levels to it. Your thoughts on that? I know you said a lot about Gears of War E-Day. I thought that was the standout of the show. I thought it looked and we talked about it before we DM'd each other about how incredible I thought it was. But what really stood out to you? Fable, like you said, with Haley Atwell's performance, as far as the type of Office meets Oblivion type format, as far as that's concerned. I think they delivered. I think they delivered on a lot of what they needed to do so. And I can't stand the fact that in today's age, I would have to pay probably $1,100 for that X25 translucent green Xbox Series X.
That's nuts.
Because I really want that sucker, but I don't. I think that's probably something I will probably avoid getting.
Yeah, I think that if you didn't have an Xbox Series X, that would be the one to aim for. But the fact that we already have an Xbox Series X, it's too much. But it is beautiful. It is a beautiful. Again, it takes me back to simpler times when hard drives are big enough for games, and you could, rip CDs onto your Xbox and play the music while you're enjoying Project Gotham Racing for the umpteenth time. Anyways, I digress. I would 100% agree with you, and I think it's important to note that while I do think that you and I particularly lean heavily towards Microsoft as far as our favorites of the big 3, right? I don't think that's a stretch for anybody to say if they've listened to the show. We do tend to enjoy Microsoft more because we kind of believe in Microsoft a little bit more. And it's not to say that PlayStation's bad. We just lean into Microsoft more. But I say that to say Microsoft absolutely needed to nail this Summer Game Fest, this presentation, this E3, whatever you want to call it. They needed to bring it in. They needed to show exactly what it means to be a member of Xbox. I've been very vocal and very adamant about the need to rebrand, the need to re-identify who Xbox is, what Xbox brings, and to not spit in the face of the people who have spent the last 25 years helping to build the brand of Xbox, helping to build that platform, helping to sing praises to the Xbox, to Microsoft in their Xbox. And honestly, myself is one included in that particular category of people, of fans, because I truly have believed in Xbox's vision and Xbox's message. And I think that this was something that they sorely needed. They needed the focus to be about the games. It's really easy for them to to chalk up this generation as a L and to say, we're ready to move forward. We're ready to move into the next one. We're ready to show off Project Helix, or whatever they're going to call it ultimately when it comes out. And it'd have been very easy for them to start showing off some of that stuff. But I think they did the right thing in saying, hey, we need to focus on the games. We can easily bring you more hardware, but if you don't have games to play on that hardware, then what's the point? So let's get down to the brass task, if you will, and let's show you exactly what it means to have an Xbox. We're going to show you games. We're going to show you some great footage. We're going to show you some great gameplay. And absolutely, Gears of War by far stood out leaps and bounds ahead of pretty much the entire show. I'd even venture to say that it showed out better than Marvel's Wolverine or God of War Laufey. I'm not sure how to pronounce. Laufey, thank you. I think it even showed out better than all of those. It really looked very, very polished. And I think I seen a tweet by Cliff Bleszinski, and if you don't know who that is, that's one of the original people that worked on Cliffy B.
Yes, he had an E3 I went to a long time ago. He had a he was feeling it, let's put it that way. He had a young lady around his arm with a mink coat, and he was walking, and he had that Mac Daddy look that you just said, you know what, he's made it. And this was I think circa E3 2010 or 2009 or 2010, but right in that range. And he just had the Cheshire Cat grin. And again, I know that he's not done anything relevant. He's tried and failed back in the gaming industry since, but good times for him. Good times indeed.
Absolutely. But he actually had a very interesting thing to say. He said that it looks like it has heart again. And I thought that was a very, very, very important and very poignant comment to make, because I 100% thought the same thing. I thought for the first time I actually cared about what happened in this. Now, granted, we all know this is a prequel, right? So this is about the emergence day, and this is all about what happened on that fateful day when the locusts started to rise up from the ground. With that being said, we know how the story ultimately ends. We've all played, I mean, I shouldn't say we've all played, but I'd like to imagine that the vast majority of us have played through the Gears of War saga and gone through Gears of War 3 and seen how it ends. But to go back and see how it began and to see a young Marcus Phoenix, a young Dom, all those guys back when it first started, to see how green they are, and to see how a lot of situations Marcus Phoenix ended up in, he very well could have lost his life in. That he was not the hardened soldier that we got to know in Gears of War 1, and he was nowhere near where he was at the end of Gears of War 3.
They reference the books like Asphalt
Fields.
Fields.
Yes, they reference the books. They reference a lot of other things. That. So there's a lot of lore building that happened that they're actually paying off in this prequel to the original Gears of War. So I thought that it was probably the best show, and obviously the biggest takeaway from that, it is an Xbox exclusive. I know there's been a lot of chatter and a lot of talk about exclusivity, and I, for one, have been very much on the record as saying I want to see console exclusives stay console exclusives. I do not like the intermingling of console gamers. I don't like the I don't like the idea of having Master Chief on a PlayStation. It just seems very sacrilegious to me. I don't like the idea of having Dom or Marcus Phoenix on a PlayStation. It seems sacrilegious to me. I think games that were already multiplayer or already multi-console games, like the Call of Duties and all that stuff, the Minecrafts, all that, absolutely should stay console or should stay multi-console. I absolutely 100% agree with that. But I think the games that are Microsoft Game Studio games and that came from the house that Microsoft built should stay with Microsoft. There's a reason to own a Microsoft console. This is why. These are the games you get on it. If you want a Microsoft, if you want to play these games, you need to get a Microsoft console. It's very, very simple. PlayStation proved that they were not playing nice in regards to their console, in regards to their exclusives. They did not share. They did not put those exclusives onto Xboxes. They did not allow games that were, gazillion years old at this point. I'm looking at Marvel Spider-Man. That didn't find its way to an Xbox console. Marvel Spider-Man 2 didn't find its way to an Xbox console. God of War didn't find its way to an Xbox console. You can say PC all day, but every PC gamer is not an Xbox gamer. Every Xbox gamer is not a PC gamer. So that did not find its way. That was not reciprocated. And in the middle of that not being reciprocated, we were Microsoft became the laughing stock of the gaming community. Look at them; they're farming out their product. They're turning into Marvel back before the MCU took off. They're giving away all their stuff. They're letting anybody else have it, and just trying to make a buck on it instead of holding true to who they are. So I say all that to say, Microsoft absolutely needed this win of a performance of a showcase, and I am here for it. I know that it's early to say how much we believe in Arsha. Um,
Asha.
Asha, thank you. I don't know if it's too early to say how much we believe in Asha, but she's been proven to be pretty on point as of right now. Now, granted, we are less than 6 months into her reign, but may she reign a long time. If this is what she's bringing, if this is how she's bringing it, may she reign a long time. I think the games that were already shown that they were going to be cross-platform, or I'm sorry, multi-platform. So the Halos, I think that they're going to have to, they had to honor those, otherwise they're going to be in the middle of a bunch of lawsuits. But I can foresee in the near future them looking back and saying, okay, well, the next Halo will be Xbox exclusive. Gears of War will remain Xbox exclusive. Forza's, I don't know if Forza's going to stay on Xbox only. I'm not 100. I don't know if that one is. I would not be mad about that because I've truly enjoyed Forza Horizon 6. But I don't know if that's going to be Xbox exclusive moving forward. But I am a fan of the exclusivity. I really, really am, and I'm a fan of Asha really showing what it means to have an Xbox again, and bringing it back. And I'm looking forward to see what happens next. That's for sure. But they needed this win. They needed it badly. This was probably the first legit win for the Xbox brand in some years. Years. Easily to me.
Well, again, I enjoyed it. I thought you and I are a little bit higher on the what Josh, I guess, kind of did not like it as much. I think because the fact that he wanted more exclusives. I think because he
Oh,
thinks like
absolutely.
we
I don't
do as
disagree
far
with
as
that.
Xbox.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wanted more exclusives too.
yeah, you want more exclusive, and I think he graded it a little bit down because of it, as opposed to what he would have liked to have seen, or as far as is concerned, Xbox committing to it. But otherwise, again, he was still even positive about it, as far as the overall show is concerned. So again, Xbox taking a step back into the right direction, and let's hope it continues. But before we move away from this, as far as movie way into our movie area, I wanted to go ahead and discuss Nintendo, which came out earlier today as we're recording this, with their own direct. And of course, a lot of things going on there. You talked about Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake. That one really got everyone going. It's something that I don't think was unexpected, because I think I'd heard quite a bit of expectation on that game. And I think it says 2026. Did it give
Yeah.
a date?
No, it didn't give a day for it, but I mean the fact that it's coming out this year, I think is a big deal. So I would expect again, they need to stay away from that Gears of War, excuse me. They need to stay away from that
GTA.
That Grand Theft Auto thing that might be coming out sometime soon here.
Mm.
But I also think that that's gonna be for a different market. So I don't think that I think that they're consciously thinking about Grand Theft Auto, but in that same breath, they know that this game is not, it's not that it's not geared towards Grand Theft Auto fans, but it's gonna hit different people differently. So I think they're gonna still have to go for that holiday 2026. They can't. I mean, there's September is too big. You've already got Star Fox coming out literally next month. You have um, a plethora of other ports that, and I know we're getting into the Nintendo Showcase anyways, but you have a plethora of third-party support that we really should have been looking at having last year for the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. But you've got a plethora of that stuff now coming to the Switch 2. So I think they're going to have to go with the holiday 2026 release. You don't have much time now. We're already in the summer. So if we're gonna do 2026, unless you're gonna try to throw it in there in September as well, I don't see that. I see it having to be a holiday 2026 item. So yeah, they didn't give an exact date, but I foresee it being around October, November. Maybe it'll slip in October.
They could even do it as late as their first week of December, because they always love doing something on the first week of December right there for those
Yeah, that's
last
true.
minute Christmas deals. So
That's true. Very true.
that could be the other way of trying to avoid GTA 6 as far as that's concerned. But we will wait and see. But that was the biggest announcement. But Kingdom Hearts 4 finally had some stuff to show off. That did include gameplay. No release date yet, so we don't know what year that's coming out in. And I still I really accentuate the word year on that with Kingdom Hearts. But Kingdom Hearts 1 to 3 is actually being released for Nintendo Switch 2. So they'll get people get a chance. A new generation will get a chance to go ahead and play Kingdom Hearts as far as 1 through 3 is concerned, at least coming up here in October. There's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but nothing really stood out to me after that. Final Fantasy Resonance, Star Fox got a free demo which you could try out. Yeah, just
Do a barrel
Nintendo's
roll. Sorry.
What?
Said do a barrel roll. Do a barrel roll.
Exactly. Nintendo Switch Sports Resort, yay! Another Xenoblade, yay!
Yeah.
Yay! Again, it's limited. It just seemed
Nintendo
like
had the
Sony
weakest
and
lineup.
Nintendo limited.
Yeah.
They just the rest of the vast majority of what else they showed is already on other consoles, and they're just bringing it to
ports.
just ports to Nintendo Switch. It's just like, okay, all right, but that again, I give that 6.5 right there. What I give PlayStation, because again, you're whatever you're showing, it's not as much as I think we as gamers want to see.
Yeah, I think that what we would have liked to have seen, what that show was what we would have liked to have seen when the Nintendo Switch came out. That would have been great for the Nintendo Switch to be a viable, legitimate console when it first came out, if they had all those ports as a part of that launch window. Obviously, you'd want to see more more first party titles. They had a lot of stuff that going on with Donkey Kong now. I'm not even really sure how that all works out. I guess it's additional add-on to Donkey Kong Bonanza, but it's something else separate. These are the separate things you can do with Donkey Kong, using the retro console. It's I don't know. It's weird. They try to be very innovative, and I can appreciate Nintendo looking to swing for the fences on that type of stuff, because they really do. It doesn't always land, but they do swing for the fences. And sometimes they're hits, sometimes they're misses, but at least they're willing to try it. So yeah, I would agree with you. I think that the Nintendo Showcase is probably my least favorite. No, I take that. It was my second favorite, just because of but it was just because of the Ocarina of Time remake announcement. If it hadn't been for that, it would have been a very, very bleh show. It would have definitely been worse than PlayStation. And I'm completely biased. Let me be very clear. The Ocarina of Time for me is one of the greatest games ever made. So that remake was a huge shot in the arm, as far as my feelings on that show. I don't know if it's good or bad that they saved it for the very end. Maybe if they put it at the beginning, you'd miss everything else. But that was easily the best part of the show, and the only thing that really made it worthwhile for me. So that alone put it second, in my opinion, behind Xbox. But again, I'm completely biased in that. That is not a fair assessment, because it's just Legend of Zelda.
There you go. But again, if you have thoughts on this whole former E3 period of time, whatever you want to call it. No one has a really good name for this time. Just okay, the first period in June when all the video game announcements are out. Please let me know who you thought won or lost and lost. Who are the winners and losers of this time period as far as the showcases are concerned? Please let us know your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, also, I wanted to touch on this weekend at the box office because we're right in smack dab in the summer box office season. And I'm just looking over, and I did bring it up, the summer box office tally. And I've not brought any numbers yet, just to let you know. No meta scores I'm going to put in there as of yet, as far as it's concerned. Or was it box office? I think we're doing box.
Talking about,
box office on the year. Metascore on the summer box office.
I thought it was Metascore for the games and box
office.
Oh
yeah, it is Metascore for the games. Yeah, yes, and it's money.
Metascore for the games.
Yeah. I haven't changed it. I got shame on me. So dollars. It's worldwide dollars. So we're gonna go ahead. No, we did.
No, it was
domestic dollars for summer and worldwide for the year. Yes. Now I'm getting it. All right, that's all right. The elevator finally went to the top on that one. But be that as may, I'm changing it now as we speak. With that said, though, Steven Spielberg, one of the greatest and most acclaimed directors of all time, is coming out with a new movie this weekend, back to the aliens for him with Disclosure Day. And Disclosure Day on our lists, I put it 8th, you put it 9th, and Josh put it 9th. So our hopes aren't like super high for this film.
Yeah.
As far as it's concerned, the reviews came out and they're solid. Especially when it concerning Emily Blunt, who is being heavily, the Oscar is now being thrown her way for this performance as far as a nomination, possibly early as it may be in the summer months as regarding that. But the movie overall has been graded and reviewed solidly. The thing is, though, will audiences still come back to Steven Spielberg's Alien movies? You know, we've seen before with Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He had that little E.T. thing going on that upended the entire 1980s. And then he followed it up in the early aughts, as the kids say, with War of the Worlds, which may or may not have turned off people as far as, I thought it was all right for what it was, War of the Worlds. To me, it's something that I can play on in the background now, and I can still have a decent time with it. But be that as it may, he heads back. Well, okay, we could include Indiana Jones movie as well as far as aliens, for the one that didn't work out so well with Shia LaBeouf. But be that as it may, he is heading back full board into the Alien universe per se, and he is in interviews talking aliens and the possibility that aliens have already been here and whatnot, and he's convinced, and he has his right to his opinion, and I respect that. But do you think he still has the magic? Because Fableman's and his other movies that he's made within recent times have not struck a chord as well as they once did with audiences. What are your thoughts on Steven Spielberg as he heads into this weekend with his latest offering? Now a guy that's going into his 80s with Disclosure Day.
You either die the villain, you either die a hero, you live long to see yourself become the villain. I find myself going back to that line often nowadays because we're getting into this stage where a lot of the people that we have grown up watching, a lot of the things that we've grown up enjoying, are starting to outwear their welcome. They're starting to get a little long in the tooth. And in regards to Steven Spielberg, I think that you hate to say that somebody's best is behind them, I hate to think that because I feel like as humans, we have the capacity to continue to thrive and continue to show, continue to astonish and amaze. I think the problem is that we're not the same audience. We're not the same movie-going audience that we were back then. Raiders of the Lost Ark and Jaws and all that. Those were movies for different times. I mean, E.T. was groundbreaking at the time. If you look back at ET now, obviously it hasn't aged well. It was made in the 1980s, so it hasn't aged well. But I guess my point is the movie hasn't aged well, but we've aged, we've changed. Our demeanor has changed. Our outlook on life has changed. Our outlook on things have changed. Our feelings on extraterrestrials has probably changed since that movie's been out, since it's been released. So I think the bigger problem is that the world around us has changed so much that a lot of times if directors aren't able to adjust their style, or if they're not able to roll with the punches, or if they're not willing to roll with the punches, looking at the Martin Scorsese's of the world, and they're willing to just continue to do things the way that they've done it because that's the way movie magic should have always been, movies should have always been done, you're gonna find yourself on the outside looking in. And that's not to say that that's what Steven Spielberg has done per se, um, but there comes a point in time where you know the vision that you once had is only going to be niche for a certain group, and it's not going to be as appealing to a mass audience, which is why when we talked about this during our fantasy lineup, all of us pretty consensusly said that this was going to be towards the bottom of our list. I think we all gave it a little bit of leeway because it is Steven Spielberg, and he has known to put out a hitter, once or twice in his career. I'm looking at 10 right now that I can think of off the top of my head, or that I can see here. He's good for a hit. However, it's not the same movie going experience. It's not the same audience. It's not the same. We've been exposed to so much. Aliens are things that we feel like we've been exposed to already in the world. We feel like they've already been amongst us. We feel like we've already seen UFOs. We've experienced so much, and as a generation, not to get too soapboxy, but we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot between the boomers and the Gen Xers and the millennials now, the elder millennials and the younger millennials, whatever the case may be. We've been through a lot between pandemics and Y2K and parents getting older and you know different wars, 9/11. Like we have seen a lot. We have been traumatized. Like we are the last of the F around and find out generation. So the way we the way we absorb media has changed so much too that we don't even look at that the same anymore. So he Steven Spielberg, had his work cut out for him from the jump because we're just not the same moviegoers that we once were. And I think it's hard for some directors to adjust to that new style. It's hard for some directors to adjust to the new normal and the new guerrilla style that we may like to view movies in, or just whatever style we want to view the movies in. It's just hard for them to wrap their heads around that. So you get a lot of these older directors, the soon to be 80 Steven Spielberg, or again the Scorsese's and all that, even the Spike Lee's. It gets very hard for them to get out of their own way because they're just so used to doing things a certain way, and it's just not like that anymore.
No, no, and again, he will always have a place in history as far as filmmakers are concerned, and there will be so many filmmakers, future filmmakers, who he will leave an impression or an influence on for decades to come. As far as that's already written in stone. That should never be in doubt as far as that's concerned. So his place in the pantheon and history of movie making is untouched by whatever
Yes.
happens with this movie. That it's still going forward. He is still going to be one of the great ones moving forward. TJ.
Solidified, absolutely, 100%. His place in the annals of history will not be changed. You feel bad because it's almost like that lone gun, that gunslinger that he's just not what he used to be. His reflexes aren't what they used to be. He's not as quick on the hip as he once was. So it's tough to watch him go out like that. But absolutely, who he is or who he has been will forever be. I mean, again, classics, Jaws, the Indiana Jones, that movie that you mentioned earlier, that E.T. That those are all classics that are first name basis type movies. Like these are household names. So that's never going to be taken away. But every dog has his day, and unfortunately, Father Time is undefeated, and there comes a point in time where we have to be able to again move out the way and allow the newer blood, the newer generations to come in and share their visions and their thoughts, and hopefully we help spark the minds and the hearts of the next Steven Spielbergs and the next Martin Scorsese's or the next Spike Lee's or the next generation. So there comes a point where it's time to move on, and I think we're getting there with Mr. Spielberg.
So, where do you think it will end up? How well do you think it will do? I mean, again, we picked it 8th, 9th, and 9th, respectively, as far as how it will do this summer. Mind you, we didn't know anything about Obsession, and only Josh had Backrooms on his list. So, our summer box office predictions will look a little different than what actuality will be. But where do you fall Disclosure Day on that list?
I don't know, brother. I don't. At this point, we already had it, and I don't know if it cracks the top 10. I don't know if it does. I just there's just not enough. There's no excitement behind it, and I don't mean that to sound callous or cold, but it's true. There's no excitement behind this movie.
I think
Not
it
that I've
can
seen.
have. I think it can
Yeah,
have a good first week, but with Toy Story 5, The
yeah.
Odyssey, there's so
There's too
much
much
many.
coming.
Yeah, there's too much coming.
Yeah,
There's too
you
much
got to
coming.
have a big. Yeah, it has to have a huge first week because that's really that's where it's going to get its money. That's where it's going to get its return. And I don't see it, man. I don't see it being a big enough first week for it to really make a huge dent. So
And it has to be something people will talk about as far as concerned after the first week to have legs, or else you are going to have what you see with Mandalorian Grogu, which
yep.
is quickly disappearing from the theaters as we speak. So, yeah, I'm hoping the best for Disclosure Day. It's been thought of pretty fondly, but not amazingly. But we will see what happens with a solid Steven Spielberg movie that's coming this weekend to box offices, to theaters, excuse me. And before we head on out, my friend, as part of our retro review,
Mm.
I ask you
Mm.
what your favorite, or you could say favorites if you want, Steven Spielberg movies is or are.
Okay. All right. So from my favorites, this be I guess a weird kind of retro review because it's not going to be a legit review. But my favorite, there's two. If I'm being philosophical, if I'm being not philosophical. That's not the right word. If I'm being retrospective from the standpoint of where we are as a society, I think my favorite movie is going to be Schindler's List. Um, and it's not an
Yes.
easy movie to recommend from the standpoint of it's tough, right? When you're dealing with something as culturally significant as the Holocaust was, and what that meant to a certain group of people, and what that meant to the world, really, to be honest with you, it's a terrible thing, and to have a terrible thing filmed with such, dare you say, beauty. Like there was it told a story, and it made you feel something that you may not have realized you felt as you're watching this film. um so if you're getting deep into it, then I think for me, his best work will be forever be Schindler's List, just from the way it made me feel when I watched it the first time, and every time after watching that film. If I'm looking at it from a bit more of a popcorn movie experience, I think for me, it's my favorite Steven Spielberg movie in that regard is always going to be Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park was the first movie that made me feel like dinosaurs could have been real, or not that they couldn't have been real because we know that they were real, but that they would have been that kind of cool, and the idea of still having dinosaurs um, roaming around with us here, walking on Earth. It was a very, very cool thing to see, very, very cool thing to experience, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So for me, Jurassic Park was a game changer because from a standpoint of visual effects, I mean, he's very much into practical effects, and it was very, very cool to see that the animatronics that were used in Jurassic Park were top of the line back then, and there's still really good stuff now. I mean, granted, the CG doesn't hold up very well, but again, we're talking win.
Well,
And
for its
I don't even know
time,
how long.
for its time, it
19.
was amazing.
Yeah, it's way absolutely. It was amazing at the time. Now again, it doesn't always age well now, but the cinematics that we use still age well. They still look like they were pretty good. So for me, those would be my favorite Steven Spielberg films. One would be Schindler's List, and then the next one, 1A, would be Jurassic Park. But I mean, you can't go wrong with Jurassic Park. You can't go wrong with Jaws. Jaws is right there with it, especially as far as being this movie that really kind of set this. He was kind of the director that set precedents for the way things went afterwards, right? Because Jurassic Park kind of set the world for the next series of Jurassic Park films, and even the next generation of Jurassic Park films, and all these other films that will look at things that were interacting with humans on a consistent basis. The same thing with Jaws. I mean, in a very Final Destination kind of way, he made me a little scared to get in water. Like, I'm not gonna pretend like I didn't think about that down up and seeing that fin come out that water and come right at you. That's the very Jaws thing that happens there. And when you think of Jaws, when you think of sharks, you think of Jaws. When you think of Jaws, you think of Steven Spielberg. So um, you really can't go wrong with any of those. But those would be my favorite hits of Steven Spielberg, personally.
All great choices. All great choices indeed. But I have something a little different.
Okay.
Oh well, Jaws was amazing for its time. Jurassic Park was amazing for its time, and of course, very few movies tug at the heartstrings more than what we saw with Schindler's List. I'm gonna probably say for me, I'm gonna go with my favorites are probably Indiana Jones,
Okay.
Raiders,
That's
excuse
fair.
me, and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That's fair.
Obviously, one of the classics right there. Speaking of things that have not aged well, are the last scene as far as when they, spoilers, take a look inside the Ark of the Covenant, and yeah, that has not aged well. Although at its time, it freaked out a lot of kids.
Yeah.
I'll just
Yeah.
say that those special effects freaked out a lot of kids. Um,
Self included.
I think Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is an amazing film. I think it's such an underrated work of his, and that the fact that he was able to really get good character adaptation out of an already used character, Indiana Jones, and just build on more of that with the father son relationship, made it just that much better. I think that movie is incredible. But overall, I think his best movie, as far as his best movie for me, if you were going to go ahead and put a proverbial squirt gun at my head, would be Minority Report.
Really? I didn't see that one coming. Okay. All right.
I
All right.
really like this film. I think it
Okay.
is Tom Cruise's best film. And I think it is
Mm.
overall Steven Spielberg's best attempt at creating a single narrative with no need for a sequel or anything like that. It's a very well confined, all in one narrative. Um, has again, like I talked to you said before, an amazing performance from Tom Cruise. My favorite of his performances. He hams it up a little bit more of the world, but I really like this performance, and I like the way it's structured. It keeps you gripped from beginning to end, and the fact you don't always see where it's coming from as far as who is actually behind it. And
Hmm.
really, it was a well made and structured. And you talked about the CGI doesn't hold up in this film, and the CGI may not hold up anymore in this film or that film or that. It still holds up in Minority Report to this
Yeah.
day. It
Yes.
still looks good. And
Yes.
I think that is a credit to everyone that worked on it. And I really, really think it's such an underrated film, Minority Report. Indeed.
Well, I think when you start looking at things like a totalitarian government, as Big Brother is always watching, people always reference that, and that's kind of what I mean when I say he does things that are so revolutionary that he's like the grandfather of everything. He's the grandfather of those type of movies. He's the grandfather of, the Jaws, type experiences. I mean, we just, the Meg and the Meg 2 and all those films that came out, those all have taken direct things from Jaws, obviously we're still doing more Jurassic Parks. He's the one that started all of that. So he's like the granddaddy of a lot of those things and a lot of those ideas. And, he's very, very big on using practical set pieces and practical, things and real tactile. You can feel it, you can touch it. Like he's big on that. He does CG, but he much rather leans into practical effects versus CG. So I can always appreciate that about him. And, you don't even realize how big of a hand he's had in Hollywood until you do things like this, where you go back and reevaluate and say, oh, that was Steven Spielberg. Oh, all these movies really did take things from all of the movies that he did in the past and kind of find their own way to incorporate a lot of the stuff and a lot of the work and a lot of the ethic that he put into those films. So you don't really, it's when you get to the end that you really get to turn around and appreciate the journey. And I think that's the fun part of life, right? Is getting to the end of the journey and being able to look back and look at how we got to where we are and being able to say that we really had the opportunity to enjoy the ride and enjoy getting to this point. And I'm grateful to have that opportunity, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to reflect on the body of work that Steven Spielberg has done. And I'm still hopeful. I'm still looking forward to seeing what else he has left. Whether it's a lot in the tank or a little bit, but he is absolutely one to go down in the annals of history as one of the greatest that's ever done it.
I have one caveat, though.
Okay.
One caveat, though, when it comes to Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
His greatest moment in movie making history, his probably one of the best, if not the greatest cinematic scenes in history, is Saving Private Ryan and D-Day.
Yeah.
Recreating that.
Yep.
The horse, it's no frills. It's not a Hollywooded up, for lack of a better term. That 15-minute sequence ish, it's just one of the most amazing in history. It just made you feel like it is so real. It made you feel it is. So many people who lived through D-Day have cited that as being just exactly how they remember it. And again, for all the atrocities that you see in that first 15 minutes, that is what really war can be like on that type of scale. And I think he captured it, and I think that is his best scene ever in filmmaking. As far as, and possibly for me, it could be one of what I think it could be the greatest scene in history, as far as filmmaking history, that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong for that. I think that's a very, 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 very solid take, and I don't think I disagree with you at all. To be honest with you, brother,
I'm trying to think of one. I'm trying to think of one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
I mean, there's memorable words, memorable lines, memorable, scenes that that make you laugh, cry, etc., but none in a contained format like that are more devastating, or me in the theater when I watched it, more devastating to me than what I saw. It's really hard. It was really hard for me to regroup myself for the entire rest of the film after what I saw in that 15-minute span.
Yeah, and I think that's the mark of a great filmmaker. That's the mark of a great moment of cinematography in movie history, is when it makes you feel like you'll forget lines, you'll forget words, you'll forget even the people who did it, but you will never forget how it made you feel being in that moment at that particular time. I will never forget what it felt like to have my Star Wars moment with watching Avengers Endgame and watching Cap pick up that hammer for the first time, or even when the portals were opening up and all the Avengers were piling out onto the battlefield, and he picked up Thor, he picked up Mjolnir, and he said the famous words, "Avengers assemble." There is nothing that will change the elation that I felt in that moment. I'll forget what he picked up. I'll forget the words that he said, but I will never, ever, ever, ever forget what I felt in the theater that night when that happened, and the entire theater erupted in cheers and applause, and you actually felt the Avengers bring the fight to Thanos in a way that you weren't expecting. You'll forget what people have said, you'll forget what people have done, but you will never forget the way people made you feel. And I believe that. I believe that to my core. And then that proves it right then and there, right in that 15 minutes right there.
Yeah, I'd put it up there. I'd put it up there. I'd have to think more about it. Does Avengers Infinity War, does obviously what happened with Thanos and then the big snap, or with Empire Strikes Back and what I saw with Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go any one of those three. Give me on the right day in the right mood, and I might pick either one. Just how devastating it was for me watching in the theater, exactly experiencing what you're experiencing, and how I've felt emotionally since. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I didn't get to have that Empire Strikes Back feeling.
Oh, I did.
Because yeah, no, you did. Yeah, I get it. That's the boomer and it's the millennial, right? So the millennial, I didn't get that. But that was my moment was Avengers Endgame, was when, the portals are opening up and everybody's walking through and the horns start to swell and the music starts to blare and that famous portals theme goes on. And yeah, it was you had to be there. You had to
There
be
was a
there.
lot of cheering. Yes, there was a lot of cheering, and as much as there was crying when Spider-Man was getting dusted as well. And absolutely, I heard the screaming and crying when I was watching Empire Strikes Back when people were screaming no in the theaters. So yeah, absolutely. And with Saving Private Ryan, I just heard silence and I heard sobbing because of how
Yeah,
much it affected them at that time. So
yeah, yeah.
again, it's how the movies can be portrayed and just well done to the master, Steven Spielberg, for what he's given us and hopefully will give us going in the future indeed.
Absolutely.
DJ, it's been great having you on, my friend. As always, any last thoughts before we end it out?
I think in this day and age, it's so important that we feel that we have something worth feeling, and we fight for without getting too soapboxed. The world is in a very, very crazy, crazy place, and um, we need things like movies, we need things like games, we need things like that find a way to bridge gaps and find some commonality. The world is so crazy. There's been so many things that are happening in the world right now. And I'm just grateful that we have an opportunity to put all that aside for even if it's just for an hour, or an hour and 15 minutes, however long we have to just be able to bridge gaps on things like games and movies and have fun and have discussions and not always agree but not disagree. Like I'm very grateful for the opportunities that we have here in the pop culture cosmos. So I know I've thanked you hundreds and hundreds of times in the past, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity and a place to nerd out or geek out, if you will.
Always, my friend, always right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, indeed. So for TJ Johnson, the great one and the guru of pop culture, it's me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.